Karibuni sana Parenting Tuesday. Wazazi, mvute stool karibu na radio na karibu na TV. We have an interesting conversation we want to get into, and a very important conversation. We have been seeing cases rising where child abductions and child kidnapping is concerned in this country. I was just reading some statistics, and I was shocked to realize that last year, between January and December, we had a total of about 242 children aged between 18 and below who were reported missing. And then just this year, between March and May, we had 61 children that were reported missing. And we've seen cases, where children are reported missing, and then unfortunately, their dead bodies are found. It's just one traumatic experience. And as a parent, I can't even begin to imagine if I got the news that my child is missing. What would I do? Where do I begin? What's my emotional state? Those are some of the things we want to look at today. I'm so blessed this morning to be joined by two doctors in the house. Today I feel healed. We've got Dr. Mumbi Njoroge, who's a consultant psychologist and children mental health promoter. Dr. Mumbi, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Your audio is very low. I can hardly hear you.
Oh dear, it's at 100%.
Okay. Let me see if Dr. Kamau's audio is better. Dr. Kamau is a forensic psychiatrist. Dr. Kamau, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You're also a bit low. I like your beard.
Thank you. Also like your beard.
Karibuni sana, both of you. I hope my technical team is working on the audio, because I can get you, but it is very, very, very low. I hope they can work on it. So I'm just wondering, this could be one of the saddest news a parent can receive, that your child is missing. Some of the stories I've been reading online, a child was sent to the shop, or a child went to the barber and they never came back. And I'm just thinking, Dr. Mumbi, as a parent, when I get such news, what are some of the things that may be going through my mind? What's my emotional state in a situation like that?
Thank you. The initial thing, really, when you do get such news and any bad news, is that you do get into a state of alarm, a state of shock. We call that a period of chaos.
Yes.
We all don't react the same. We wouldn't say that we all react the same, but it will be characterized by chaos. Emotional chaos, your thoughts are running all over, you're thinking of the child, you're wondering where they went. And so there is a lot of thought, emotional chaos, thought chaos. Everything is in shambles, so you can't focus. And I think that's the initial reaction when you realize that a child is missing. Wow.
Panic, I'm just thinking if something like that were to happen, one of the things maybe I'd go into is panic. And sometimes when we panic, we can't function, or when we function, we make a lot of mistakes. And so, Dr. Kamau, I'm just wondering, how do you deal with that kind of a situation? How do you deal with the panic?
Well, let's maybe to begin with, as you're saying, and even as my colleague has said, is first of all, it is human to respond that way.
Yeah.
No, that's the first thing. It's good to accept our humanness, that we are humans, and nobody is so strong in the face of calamity.
Yeah.
Nobody is so strong in the face of bad news. But it also depends on the structure of your internal resilience. Whether you have the capacity to withstand it, and if you don't have, what is the next form of reaction? So that's at times when bad news come, you also realize that it can go into the extreme side of the pendulum, whereby the recipient of the news also becomes the victim.
Oh.
At times the person is hospitalized, or the person even dies after receiving the bad news.
Okay.
So it's a very, 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 very complex state, but it is manageable, if I may say that. Because I try to believe that every situation in life has a way out. No problem that doesn't have any solution.
Okay. You know, in situations like this, Dr. Mumbi, I think it's human nature. We always think of the worst. You know, in a situation where, like what we're experiencing in the country, we've seen several children go missing and their bodies have been found dead. Their bodies have been found dumped somewhere. And I'm just thinking, it is just, we tend to gravitate towards the worst case scenario. How do I, as an individual in that situation, find that balance? Because I'll definitely think of the worst. And when I think of the worst, it affects my present and how I handle this whole situation. And if I have other kids, how I relate with those other kids as well. So what do I do so that I don't get to that deep end?
You see, as my colleague there says, first of all, it is normal for you to experience that. The thought of the worst, especially in this scenario where children are being found in bags and all, it's normal. And so first we accept we are human, and that's what happens. But normally we say at that point, because you're going to go through stages. Let me just back up. You're going to go through stages. After the chaos will come a place now where you're trying to figure out, how do I deal with this situation? When you are resisting, first of all, you might be thinking, let me go look for the child. It's not like a short time, but it helps to first, I think social support is important. Have someone with you so that you can be able to first let out everything that is going on in your mind. Because the more you lock it in, then you might find yourself in the situation Dr. Kanyoro is describing, where you end up being the victim. And so I think it's very important that you literally attend to the immediate need. We speak of psychological first aid at that point. What are your immediate needs? Because panic is going to be a reality. And then let us attend to those immediate needs. Because someone would be telling you, mtoto ameonekana and has gone down the road with someone else. So do we sit down and attend to the panic? Or do you run to go and check, or what happens? I think there is a need to focus on the individual's person's immediate needs in that situation. But for parents who haven't experienced any missing child, if you're going to prevent or grow resilience, we say there is a need to first predict of the possibility of this happening. It happens in the communities. Let's predict of the possibilities of this. And then when you predict, you plan ahead. What if that happened? What would I do? So you're still growing your resilience. You're planning ahead. We are not praying for it to happen. We are people of faith. We are trusting God for the best. But should it happen, how would I cope with it? And then get social support. And so if it does happen, you already have a plan at the back of your mind. So let's not be the people who just wait for incidences to occur, but rather to also be proactive as opposed to reactive. But then when it happens and I haven't prepared myself, then we need to attend from a perspective of psychological first aid. Immediately attend to the immediate individual needs as they present.
I like that. Dr. Kanyoro, there's something that Dr. Mumbi has said there, planning ahead, building resilience. You know, I'm just wondering, how do you do this? How do you even, is this something we should have conversations with our children as well about? You know, so that we prevent such things from happening, or we build resilience to be able to counter some of these things if they happen to come our way. How do we do that?
Yeah, I'll quote one wise man who spoke and said, always hope for the best, but also prepare for the worst.
Okay.
That's how life is. And I always tell people, I even tell my students most of the times, anything you see happening to somebody, be it good or be it bad, you're also a potential candidate for it.
Very true.
So that's one thing. Two, I always say, with advance in technology, as nations and countries advance in civilization, let me put it that way, Advancement in technology also comes with its own challenges.
Yeah.
There is also advancement in crime. So people need to be, because issues of kidnapping, for an example, we are not very, very advanced in issues of kidnapping. But you see now, this is a signal of the future.
Yeah.
This is the future trajectory.
Yeah.
Because now when you see kidnapping, it is telling you this is the future. So societies and communities need to be empowered. They need to be equipped. They need to be trained on how to handle calamities.
Yes.
As I may say, when calamity seems inevitable, accept the reality. I'm becoming a bit philosophical, but I'm trying to build on something.
Yes.
These are things we need to, in Africa, somebody say, the problem we have in Africa is one. It's like, for instance, we don't speak about death, yet it is a reality.
Yes.
And when, for instance, I'm preparing for death, if, for instance, I prepare how I should be buried when I die, I'm not saying that I will die. I'm preparing for death. I'm only preparing my family that in an event this eventuality strikes, you won't be so much incapacitated or inconvenienced because of my departure. I had planned for it. So it is also good. It is also good to, because that is how life is designed.
Yes.
There will always be good times and there will always be bad times. When the good times come, we rejoice. When bad times come, as Dr. Mobi said, we also need to prepare for them. And so these are some of the things we need to equip our people. People need to be empowered. People need to be empowered on issues of death. How do you prepare for death?
Yes. Parents
also need to be prepared, young parents, whatever, or anybody. I've gone through such a process when we had an issue in our family of one of our brothers. And I know how devastating it can be. Because we had a brother of ours who had disappeared for a whole month and we didn't know where he was. That was way back, many years back, over 20 years ago.
Okay.
And so I'm speaking from a point of experience. I know the devastation that comes. So one, I would say, it's good for people to be equipped. Societies, communities, and the nation at large to be empowered on how to handle calamities, how to handle eventualities.
I like what both of you are sharing, because just like Dr. you've said, I think it's in our African context and culture. We think that when we prepare for a bad thing, we are actually inviting it. So if I prepare for my death and burial, I'm actually inviting it to come. If I prepare for something like this where my child could be abducted, it's almost like I am saying it needs to come. And I think that's where many of us find ourselves caught flat-foot in a situation like this. But I'm just wondering, Dr. Mumbi, when something like this happens, so one child has gone missing, but I have other children, how do I talk to them? Because my demeanor, my emotions as a parent will also affect how the brothers and sisters of this missing child will respond or react to this whole situation. So how do I break the news to them? How do I talk to them?
First of all, I'm not even sure you'll be breaking the news. The most likely will have had the news.
Yes.
Having observed the chaos around them and your reaction, they definitely will know. I think they might even be the first ones to know before you know. Because
by the way, that's true.
Playing, and they haven't seen their brother and they haven't seen their sister, or he went with someone.
That's true.
So there's a possibility they will know. But let me just say, initially, we tend, and it's a good thing you brought it up, we tend to forget that there are other children or other siblings in the process. And I've watched that even as Christians sometimes, we go to a place where there's a crisis and we focus on the adults and we forget the children. And here comes in the value of social support, even if it's a neighbor.
Okay.
But before that, I say, as a parent, no matter how I am feeling, I think it is important to communicate. Your brother or your sister cannot be found and we don't know where they are right now. But if you're not in a state to support them further, then if you have a friend, a neighbor, an auntie, whoever it is with you, they would be able to support you in working with them. But then I say also involve them at that point. And especially as Christians, one of the Because it has a way of just sort of also deflating the emotions and just let us pray. And as we are trusting a higher power who is our God, who knows where your sibling is, the Lord also helps us to just sort of calm down. But I say, let us not forget those children. Let us keep them updated at that point. And even as matters unfold, there are situations where you might even involve those children in trying to figure out how to find their siblings later.
Yeah.
And they might come up. So don't ignore them. Let's work with them. Find a specific adult. Because, of course, there is a lot that will be called out of you. The police are trying to ask you questions. The neighbors have questions. If you have a spouse, you might even start blaming them. Why didn't you? There could be a house help in the play. So there is need to attend to all this, and you might feel too drawn. And that's why I find value in community. And as the Bible says, we bear each other's burdens.
Very true.
This is a beautiful opportunity for other Christians to help you bear your burden.
Okay, great. Shortly, we'll talk about, you have cases where a child goes missing and then after a couple of weeks, glory to God, they are found alive and well. And you have those other cases where a child goes missing and unfortunately, their body is found dumped somewhere, as we've seen several cases in this country. But there are those cases where a child goes missing and they're missing. Year 1, they're missing. Year 2, they're missing. And so as a parent, you're kind of like on a roller coaster ride. One time you hear something, you're hopeful maybe they'll be found, then your hopes are dashed. So if you're in that kind of a situation where your child went missing, they've never been found, it's been several years, I'm just wondering, how do you cope with that psychologically, mentally, the roller coaster of hoping and then your hopes are dashed? Hope comes again, then they're dashed. How do you navigate through all that? We'll talk about that in the next couple of minutes. It's about 29 minutes before we get to 8 o'clock. Parenting Tuesday, effects and trauma when the child is still missing. If you want to share something with us or you have a question for us, 20316 is the SMS line. The WhatsApp number is 0786 316 316. Today we're looking at the effects and trauma when a child is still missing. We've seen lots of cases over the last couple of months of children being kidnapped. Some of them ended up dead. It's just one sad situation. And so we are trying to see and prepare for such eventualities because we are seeing a rise in them. So what are the effects and the trauma that the parents go through when the child is still missing? I have Dr. Mumbi Njoroge with me in studio and also Dr. Kamau Kanyoro. And if you have any questions for us, 20316 is the SMS line. WhatsApp number is 0786 316 316. So Dr. Mumbi, before we listen to the music, I was asking what happens in a situation where your child has gone missing and it's been several months or even possibly past 1 year and they've never been found. And so you're always hopeful, but your hopes are being dashed. How do you navigate emotionally in such a situation?
Well, let me first say it's a very difficult situation. Because, initially, like we have said, you lose a child and you go through all that. Then you sort of are settling to some sort of routine. Not that you're okay with your child disappearing, but really it looks like eventually we have no control over this matter. So somehow life has to progress. But at the back of the mind and in the heart, you want your child back. And that's where you hear, a body was found, and you run to go check out. And by the time you're getting here, you probably have gone to all hospitals, mortuaries, done everything you can, and you cannot find. So when you go, then hope is ignited. When you get there and you first of all find it is not my child, then you get what we call a re-traumatization. Because it brings back the actual image of your child and thinking, okay, this is not my child, this is somebody else's child, but mine could also be in this situation or even worse. And it doesn't help, of course, because there are all sorts of stories about what happens to children. So you have re-traumatization. And when you are re-traumatized, then you might end up going through the same process again in your mind. You might find yourself very angry, feeling hopeless, You might be bashing yourself. But you see, all this is dependent on how you resolved first.
Yes.
The initial stage. Because if you didn't resolve, because there are those who will never who never actually get out of it. They end up depressed, so they are on treatment and they are struggling. So every time they have that, you might find that they are sinking deeper, and therefore they might end up being on treatment. We might send them to Dr. Kanyoro and all the psychiatrists out there and just try to get them treated. And so that re-traumatization really is very complicated. You find that even sometimes you're thinking at that point, for those of us who have the faith, you lose faith in God. You're wondering, why let this? And so it keeps happening. But then on the other hand, you might go and find it's your child. To some extent, I know this sounds bad, but at least it gives some element of closure.
Yeah.
Because now you know your child is here, the body is here, and we like to bury well and feel like we said goodbye, and like we had some form of closure. Which brings some sort of acceptance of the outcome in the future.
Yeah.
But when you don't have that, it is very complicated. That's why there's a story, I think, that was running. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago, of the Chinese man who had looked for his son who had disappeared at probably 3 or 4, and later to find him, and he was an adult, and he was even teaching.
Yes.
And the father had sustained the search and continued with it. A parent never stops looking for their child, even if not physically, in their heart and in their mind. They always will think about that child and desire to find them. So maybe that, I don't know what Dr. Kanyoro's experience was when the brother disappeared, but that hope that's ignited is not helpful if it keeps re-traumatizing you.
Dr. Kanyoro, you want to add something to that?
I would say at that moment, as I said earlier from the beginning, is in an event you find yourself in that situation. If there could be some hope, even if the child disappeared and the child has been found dead. That one may bring a point of closure.
Yeah.
But of course, there is what you call now post effect. I mean, the effect of the post episode.
Yeah.
Now managing that episode after. That is one thing. Two, in an event, this thing will never materialize, or maybe the child will never be found, or the child will never be seen. I would say, though some things may appear to be very theoretical, the only thing now is to hear from a person who has gone through it.
Exactly.
Because as what we can do is only trying to figure out either from a professional point of view, or from your own hypothesis. In an event this happens, what would you do? But now it will be fair and it will be good if you can hear it from a person who has gone through it. But at the same time, irrespective of the situation, I would say that it is of fundamental importance that one, we maintain our psychosocial support. Because life is all about relationships.
Yeah.
People, because you cannot fight alone. I think there's a scripture in the Bible that says a strand or two of three cannot be easily broken.
Yeah.
That is Ecclesiastes. So if we keep our psychosocial support strong, people always give us hope, which is good. Even if the worst happens, still people will give us strength and the comfort to carry on. And also the most important thing, I may not be very religious, but I can say it's also good to keep our spiritual relationship with God more intact. Because at the end of it all, He's the only one who can give us the strength to go through it. People become, humans are limited. We have our own limitations. There is a place I can go, and there is a place I cannot go beyond. But it is also good that at that particular point we make sure, because at one particular point we have also experienced diverse circumstances and eventualities in life. And the worst thing in life, I've come to realize, the worst thing to lose in life is when you lose your faith in God and when you lose your hope. When you lose those two things, then the battle is, the war is lost.
Okay.
So I would normally say it's better, we may lose the battle, but we win the war.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm just wondering, because I'm thinking in a situation like this, there can be the tendency of your whole life coming to a stop. I mean, you just can't function anymore because you're so overwhelmed with the thoughts of, where is my child? What are they doing to my child? What kind of things are they going through? And even as Dr. Mumbi had said, you can easily sink into a depression. I'm just wondering, how do you ensure you don't go into that deep end so that you can still continue to function? Because like we said earlier, if you have other children, they still need your attention and care. You need support from your spouse. Your spouse also needs support from you. Maybe you still have a job you need to go to. So how do you manage all these things?
Okay, go on.
Okay, she can go on, I think. But maybe let me finish on that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Strengthening our psychosocial support is very important. And specifically, if a person is going through such a trauma or such a process of devastation, if he or she is working, it is also good to know. It's also good to inform the immediate supervisors, so that, because there will be change of moods. This person cannot function normally. That's what I'm saying. We need to accept the reality. So for us to be in a state of balance, this person should be managing of the situation should be in such a way that the people who are supposed to know this information should be informed. Everybody. That's why we are speaking about psychosocial support.
Yeah.
People who are supposed to be informed must be informed of what you're going through. Now, something else maybe I'd like to mention, as Dr. Mombi had said, the issue of when you are sharing some information, a very, very critical information, for instance, you're sharing with the children who are suffering because either their brother or their sister is lost. It's also good to know what is the information that they should know, and which information should they not know. Because remember, also, we have different emotional structures. There is a capacity of a child to withstand some things, and there is a capacity of a child not to withstand some things. So even as you share information with the children, it's good to be biased. It might be a good that word, so that you don't release all information at once, and then also the children are affected more. So it's good maybe to do what we call progressive sharing. You share step by step, not all at once, but step by step.
Okay.
So management of information is important in management of this process, and also management of your relationships, both your psychosocial relationships and your spiritual relationship.
Okay.
That's how I can look at it.
Okay. The other day we were talking about a couple of weeks ago when you lose a child, and we were talking about some of the things you should not say to a grieving person, a grieving mother. There were sometimes we come and say, "Don't worry, God will give you another one," and I'm thinking like, what do you mean God will give me another one? I'm not mourning for the other one. I'm mourning for this one. This one was also a person. And so shortly, Dr. Mumbi, I'm just wondering, are there some things we should not say as the support, what did you call it there? The social support. Yeah. As we are coming up around these parents to stand with them, what are some things we should not say to parents in this kind of a situation? We'll take a look at that shortly. We have about 14 more minutes before we get to Sambili Asubui. And so if you have any questions, the time to ask them is now, or maybe you're bold enough to share an experience you've been through in regards to what we're talking about. Feel free to do so on 20316 for SMS, WhatsApp 0786 316 316. Dr. Mumin Njoroge and Dr. Kamal Kanyoro with me in studio via Zoom, helping us to gain a deeper understanding of this. Somebody saying, as this is being discussed, my grandchild who goes to this school missed his bus in the morning and they have gone missing. The name of the boy is Nalvin Ndegwa. We are praying that he is found safe and well. We are also praying with you. I can't even begin to imagine. Dave in Lower Kabete, we are praying with you and the family that Nalvin will be found safe and sound. And so, for the audience who's tuned in this morning and you're listening in, I want us to rally behind David and just pray that the grandchild who's gone missing this morning, the school bus did not find him and he's gone missing. So let's just pray with them that this child will be found safe and sound. So Dr. Mumbi, back to you as we get to wrap up this conversation, continuing to talk about this whole scenario. Are there some things we should not tell parents who find themselves in this situation?
I think you've described them. Oh, it shall be well. Oh, don't worry. God will give you another child and things like that. But let me say from the onset, people don't say that because they want to offend you.
Yeah.
I think when we go to a place, we are saying that we want to assure you, we want to express our empathy, and we want to express our support for you and tell you we are here for you. And so we end up saying all the wrong things. But maybe I would say it comes from a lack of an understanding of what this particular person needs, what this particular parent needs. And I think we will find those needs because we might lose the parent, even as we talk about psychosocial support, and forget what the parent needs. For example, they need to stay physically strong and healthy to sustain the energy. So they need to eat, they need to sleep. So instead of telling you, I think things will be better, I can look at you and tell you, you know, my friend, you have been up for 6 hours. Why don't you try and lie down? You see, that's not offensive. They may say no, but you're attending to their needs.
Yes.
They need some physical exercise. We've been sitting down here for so long. Come, let us try to take a walk. So that gives you better words. And then trying to, if you find them so overcrowded and they look stressed, you can actually gradually just drag them out, because really when you go through such a trauma, you want to create space for yourself and just to be quiet and silent with yourself, you know? So help them and get them out, or get people out of their space, as opposed to focusing on the pain and all that quite a bit, unless they bring it out. And then just be there. We call it the ministry of presence. Be there. If they need a hand held, hold their hand. Give them an opportunity to release their emotions. We encourage them to release their emotions. We say that some people will say, you can't ask God those kind of questions. But I always say God can defend himself. He says in Isaiah, come let us reason together. So find a place where you can just be there. Just tell me what you're feeling. Tell me what you're thinking. And just listen and be there. And really, when you see them go down, in fact, some of the clients we have who come to our offices are brought by their friends. And they are brought hand. You know, I even have a lady who sends people and brings them to the office and says, I'm even paying for this one.
Wow.
Just attend to them. You know, because they are there, they are observing. So don't try to make the situation better by trying to explain things God would explain. You just be there, be human, feel like you are in their shoes, try to put yourself in their shoes and attend to those needs. If you see their children and they are getting stressed by all this, just say, let me carry them to my house, or let me bring my children to come and play with your children. Because then that gives a mother or a father an opportunity to know my children are taken care of. And those are what we are calling immediate needs. So whatever language you use a language that attends to the immediate needs, and you will avoid the pitfall of false assurances and things that will leave those parents wounded. And unfortunately, you don't forget. They always remember, so and so said, and it has been known to mess relationships later.
Okay. One final question. This one goes out to you, Dr. Kanyoro. There's a message here from Moses. Moses says, I once got lost when I was about 8 years old. What saved me was our community name. Everyone could relate to it. The lady who picked me took me to a nearby church. She left me there and took the burden to reach my family. Later, I was found and my father came for me. My mother said she could only give thanks to God. And I'm reading that to ask the question. I find that we've become so disjointed as a community. It's not like back in the day, especially here in the city. You know, you live in a block of apartments, but you hardly know your neighbor. You're not concerned about your neighbor's child. I mean, when we were growing up, if my neighbor saw me misbehaving, they would give me a beating and they would take me to my parents, would give me a second beating. but we have become so disjointed. I'm just wondering, what can we do in our communities, especially in the cities, so that we can become a more close-knit community, even as we talked about planning ahead and building resilience?
Okay, let me say this. One, in most cases, when I've seen when crises come, many people go back to the basics.
Yeah.
That's something I've learned. I've observed situations all over the world. Whichever crisis come, like when this pandemic came, you realize that people have gone back to the very, very, very basics. Now, what I'm saying is, when I speak about basics, we are speaking about fundamental principles of life, which do not change.
Yes.
And one of the things, you see, the only problem is we have a distorted perception as humans or as Africans, because we think civilization is becoming isolated.
Yeah.
But I think civilization is becoming more community. I grew up in the village, and when I was growing up in the village, in our generation, we knew, okay, I mean, the population was young age, but the basics of community protected the society. Every person the age of your father was your father. Every person the age of your mother was your mother.
Yeah.
Every person the age of your brother. You see, that's community life. In so doing, it became it is very, very easy to manage situations as a community.
Yeah.
So when you see these things of kidnapping and the likes of it, it's just an indication of fragmentation and dislocation and distortion of community principles. So these are some of the things that can be. It is interesting because if a criminal came into the community, he will be known even before he enters.
Yes.
That's a principle. So when we devalue the value of community, we think that we are becoming more civilized, so we get more isolated. Then we are losing it. Actually, we are more distorted in our thinking. We are very, very confused in our thinking. So, and you see, community life has always been a value in the African traditional setup. We value community. If you go into those countries, in the so-called advanced countries, the life is about self.
Yeah.
But yet, we are, it's amazing. It's a paradox because we are running to go where they are, and they are also learning to come back where we are.
Yes.
It's a reversed order.
Yes.
So if we enhance, let's be honest. Let's be very candid. Let's go back to community life.
Yeah.
It takes initiative. Let me know my neighbor. Let me try to create a relationship. Let not this language of I don't care. No, one day you'll care. At the end of the day, you'll need your neighbor, and your neighbor will need you.
Yeah.
So if we can teach these are value we need now to teach our children: community life and the value of humans and valuing human beings, whether they are in your social status or in your class or whatever. All I know is every human being has something to give and something to receive.
Yes.
So we value human based on understanding, not based on class.
Awesome.
A person may not be in my class, but I know he has something to give.
Yes.
The plumber in my house is a valuable person because he can do what I cannot do.
Yeah.
He does what I don't do. So
Yeah.
I value people based on that.
Wow.
And if you instill that in your children, then they will grow up knowing the value of other humans.
Very true. Dr. Mumbi and Dr. Kanyoro, asanteni sana. Unfortunately, my time is up. I hope we had more time to keep talking and to keep having this conversation. But thank you so much for the wisdom and the pointers you've given us this morning. And we continue to pray for Dave. Like Dave said earlier on, his grandchild has gone missing this morning. A boy by the name of Nalvin Ndegwa. We pray with you, my friend, that your child will be found safe and sound. Well, that's about it for today. Thank you for being a part of Parenting Tuesday.
This and more of our shows, log on to www.familymediaonline.com to enjoy a wide variety of programs, from current affairs to testimonials and features, pastoral and inspirational shows, kids entertainment, and so much more. Also stream live on www.familymedia.tv.